Chapter 10. Saw Mari. He muttered 3 words, inaudibly. The air changed around them. It felt a few degrees warmer, and the smell of incense hung in the air around them. She could hear the sound of people talking in the distance. She didn't know the meanings of the few words she could pick out, although the language sounded familiar. Sam felt like she should be able to understand it, but wasn't sure if that was residue from her body's former occupant, or the incomplete soul within her now. She activated a mystrionic ability known as tongues that would translate almost anything she heard as well as what she spoke. The accuracy dropped dramatically when dealing with languages that were overly complex or simplex. "Remember," he said as he sidestepped, rested one hand on her behind, and took her left hand in his, "Not a peep." Sam yelped as he pinched her ass. He shushed her in a playfully scolding voice. "Yes, Lord Oleander," she whispered, expecting to be scolded again. He guided her out of the circle and down what she assumed was a hallway. He quietly warned her every time they came to a step, squeezing her ass each time, sometimes lightly, other times more firmly. By the time they made it to the end of the path, she'd learned to judge the height of the step based on the forcefulness of the grasp. The voices all went silent. His last signal was 3 firm, rapid squeezes. Without thinking, she proceeded up 3 steps in a row onto some sort of raised platform. "She shouldn't be here," a male voice said. "I've blocked her ability to see," Oleander scoffed. "Oleander," a woman said, "this isn't the sort of an event to bring defenders to." "I've blocked her ability to see," Oleander scoffed. "Oleander," a woman said, "this isn't the sort of an event to bring defenders to." "She's not my defender," he countered as he guided Sam through the room, "she's my distraction." "Leave it to Oleander to bring a +1 to a war council meeting," a different male voice said. "Is that Veryl Kell I see?" Oleander chided as he guided Samari onto a soft cushion. "I could return her, if you'd like. I still remember what followed the last gathering of this sort. I hope it was just as memorable for you." "I've not forgotten," Veryl said irritably. "I waited for you the next day at Yarrow's, like we discussed the night before. Where were you?" A gentle breeze passed Sam's ear carrying the message, "Relax and let me position you. House Adam may oversee the noble bloodlines, but House Orwell needed me to set up a negotiation with the House of Arms and Legs, if I recall. I honestly hoped it would take more than one trip into your vault, but alas I underestimated your fertility," Oleander said as he laid down on the couch and carefully positioned Samari in front of him. "If you all prefer me to be here without a proper distraction," Oleander chuckled softly as he gently ran one head up and down Sam's side, "I'd be happy to oblige. Luna Vishon, Larkspur Zaire, and of course, Veryl, do you think I should bring her home and return on my own?" "She shouldn't be here," the second male said. "Well, ladies?" Oleander asked as he urged Sam up further so her head was laying against his arm while his other hand continued to slowly trace her curves. "Don't ignore me," the second male said. "I have this strange condition," Oleander chided. "I just don't tend to hear the voices of men." "You'll hear my voice," the first male growled softly. "Of course," Oleander chuckled, "I always hear you, Isel. Unfortunately, it follows me into my nightmares, always trying to deny me the pleasure of the bountiful beauties of House Gorin. I just can't hear the voices of people like Gon Warwick, over there. I've met the women of his line. I do have standards." Samari shivered as he traced the top edge of her skirt with one finger. "It's Duke Isel, the patriarch of House Gorin," said angrily. "Just what is it they say about Oleander Adam Orwell?" Gon jeered. "He wasn't invited," one of the 3 women said irritably. Was it a woman in every port, or a port in every woman? Gon taunted. Samari squirmed and rolled her hip back then forward again, wishing he'd pull into her port. There are 5 fleets, and 5 admirals, Oleander said dismissively. It was an obvious oversight. Oleander reached down and slowly traced his thumb and first 2 fingers up Samari's stomach to the 3 hooks which held her leather bra in place, effortlessly opening the clasps from the bottom up. Samari held her lips between her teeth to keep herself silent. Oleander, Gon snapped. This one's mine, Oleander laughed. Get your own. This is why we don't invite you to the council, one of the women said. You're always needlessly starting conflicts. She heard footsteps drawing closer from somewhere behind her. Well, Luna, Oleander chuckled, which form of resolution would you recommend? We can settle this at the next grand gala if you'd like. Oleander slid his hand through the gap in Sam's armor and cupped her breast. She gasped softly as his thumb braced her nipple against his finger. That's enough, Duke Isel snarled. You will treat Lady Vishon with respect, mongrel. I guess I know who will be punching her dance card, Oleander snickered softly. I was wondering why I heard arguing, Cyanide said from a few feet behind the couch. Oleander swiftly pulled his hand away and hurriedly fastened Samari's top. Akia will be attending this year's grand gala, Cyan said as she walked around the couch. That's a relief, the only woman he hadn't singled out in conversation, Larkspur said. He struggled desperately to reposition himself and Samara, but she was comfortable. Why are you here? Cyan asked. I was told you were unable to take calls because you were hosting a meeting of the War Council, Oleander said. I am a member of the council, so I thought I'd make an appearance. I don't care why you're here, Cyan scoffed. I was talking to Sam. A mortal wound, Oleander said with exaggerated sorrow, delivered by the most beautiful and least attainable woman in all the court. Samari giggled. Sam, Cyan said sternly. Sit up. Do I have to? Now. Samari reached out and groped for the side and back of the couch as she tried to sit across from Oleander. What did you do to her? Cyan said angrily. Relax, Oleander said, it was just a simple blinding. I'll return her sight when we leave. Tell me you didn't touch her, Cyan sighed. Not enough, Samari complained. I meant using soul touch, Cyan growled. Well, of course, Samari sat uncomfortably as she heard a choking sound followed by a loud crash. Don't get up. I'll deal with you later. Cyan snarled as she walked toward the center of the chamber. Now, let's get started. Having no idea who she'd been talking to, Sam sat completely silent and still. Executioner, Duke Isel sounded bored. Some of us have little time and a great deal of responsibilities to attend to. I have responded to your summons as a show of respect to your station. I understand you're hoping I'll commit some of my ships to this scheme of yours. I would prefer if the admirals submit their request in writing, so I can simply send my refusal to them with a single letter. That will minimize the time wasted, and ensure it's part of the public record. I must also ask why there is still a Terran present. While I may, personally, have stronger bonds with the mercantile marines, Larkspur said, House Sire has long had good relations with the Kaylani Dominion. I must reject any proposed military action against them. Oleander began to laugh. You can leave any time, Gon snapped. What are you braying about this time, jackass? It's good to see the council remains unchanged, Oleander chuckled mirthlessly. Let's just save time and skip the formalities. Luna will advise a non-military resolution, Veryl will complain about the expenses, Gon will. Wait, I was always the one that would point out you've all made up your minds based on rumors in court, and haven't even listened to the person who called council yet. Who does that now? I hope Gon isn't the new me, or is he still hoping for an excuse to wage war with the Fellowship to reclaim worlds we lost in a different epoch before Kalmia vanished? Well, Luna sighed, he's right on one count. I would prefer a more amicable resolution. Clotharia is fully embroiled in a conflict with the Fellowship, Gon grumbled. It would be a good time to reclaim what's ours. If House Calvraj is willing to fund the venture, Varel said, House Cal would be happy to assist in any war effort that's decided on. Someone must need to test their new toys, Larkspur said in a more casual tone. I'd love to take a look. The mercantile marines have deep pockets these days. If you're all done bantering, Cyanide said forcefully. Everyone fell silent after a metal scraping sound filtered through the room. Now that I have your attention, Cyan said angrily. Something of great value has been taken from the Empire, and is currently being held on Erosha. This sort of flagrant disrespect is an insult to all the great houses, and threatens to make us all look weak. If we permit this action once, it will encourage others to do the same. I wonder how that woman would feel about being called something, Isel scoffed. Let's call this what it is. You wish us to go to war because someone is denying you access to your lover. I can't think of a better reason, Oleander chuckled softly. I'm not done, Cyan said. My intention is a show of force, not war. Larkspur, all I ask of you is to stand down, and not respond to requests for assistance. Yes, they have imprisoned my Tejmare. She has signed her body over to me, deliverable at the time of her demise. Posture as much as you'd like, Duke Isel, I know you've seen the medical scans by now. Don't sit there pretending you have no interest in this, beyond the insult to the honor of the Empire. Deliverable upon death, Isel said. You'll find my indifference will pass once that time comes. Wait, Gon sounded like he was trying not to laugh. Is this really some scheme to rescue your girlfriend? Yes, Cyan hissed. My Tejmare. Who just happens to be the heir apparent of the Clotharian queen. Talking about making powerful alliances in bed, Oleander said appreciatively. Well done. Good enough for me, Gon said, as long as the Duke or Varel are willing to grant me access to some of their ships. Our forces are currently committed elsewhere, Varel growled, fighting Clotharians. The Ixthulian broodmother is a pretender to the throne, Samari said in a voice filled with venom. She blushed brightly and covered her mouth. What was that, child? Duke Isel asked. I'm sorry, Sam said urgently. I don't know where that came from. I'll be quiet. It's okay, Sam, Cyanide soothed. You should remember more tomorrow, when you're more complete. That's all, Varel scoffed. No explanation? Feel free to ask Aisha about Samari, Cyanide said coldly. If we can get back on topic, Luna interjected forcefully. If you're truly hoping to avoid a war, Executioner, what do you have in mind? Merely a show of force, Cyan said. Their incoming gate response time is approximately 1 hour. We gate in a 500 or so longbow-class starships. Then I politely ask them to return my property. What will you do when they refuse? Luna asked. Politely remind them what the gravity cannons of a longbow are capable of. Do I need to remind you they have a defensive pact with the Midnight Fellowship, and it's their gate? Larkspur scoffed. I think they're a little too preoccupied with Clotharia to intervene, Gon countered. More importantly, Cyanide added, they owe me a favor, and I now have the means to resolve their current conflict. I can offer it to them under the condition they don't interfere with the retrieval of my property. It may help in my region in the long run, Varel said cautiously. I'll see if my house can spare a few longbows. I'll contact Gon when I have the specifics. I'm not willing to stand down, Larkspur said, but I could arrange to spend a few hours at Yarrow's on the day of your operation, but that's conditional. What do you want? Cyan grumbled. Nothing from you. Larkspur said. This is a job for a dog, not an executioner. Really, Oleander spoke up, and what task would that be? At least he knows he's the dog, Veril grumbled. Seduce and impregnate my sister Delphine, Larkspur said flatly. Delphine. Oleander said contemplatively, Delphine Zaire. Oh, I think I remember her. Shy little bookworm. Generally unremarkable. When time for her first pairing comes, I'll make sure to find her a suitable partner of good breeding. She's been old enough for 3 years, Larkspur snapped. She's been unreceptive to past attempts. I'm not asking you to find someone. I'm asking you to do it, or are you not up to the challenge? You did hear me say unremarkable, Oleander jeered. If it was Tamaril, Azadar, or you that would be one thing, but Delphine? She's just so dull. I hardly remember what she looks like, but I do remember the cover of the book she was holding in front of her face. I wouldn't know where to start. Those are my terms, Larkspur said. How many longbows are in your fleet? Oleander asked. Over 100. Give me half, Oleander said. You want me to let you borrow? I said give, not loan, Oleander interrupted. You're talking about a significant effort dedicated to a woman I have no interest in. Who, I should add, is unlikely to have any interest in me unless I suddenly sprout chapters. Out of the question, Larkspur snorted. The key to wooing any woman, Oleander said, isn't anything said or done by the likes of me. The woman must first be willing and want to be wooed. Until your younger sister fits both of these criteria, there's just no point. I asked for half your fleet in hopes it would help you appreciate how unreasonable your request was. Samari concentrated on the direction of his voice and sent a gentle breeze to him with the message. I'm willing and wanting. This discussion isn't over, Larkspur insisted. I know, Oleander said softly. Sam could tell he was speaking to her and not Larkspur. I'd need more incentive if I'm willing to involve my forces, Luna said. When I last spoke to my Tejmare, she seemed confident that she'd come up with a way to impregnate an unperfected without the involvement of a male, Cyan said. I was unwilling to hear her through at the time. I mentioned it to Aisha, who insisted her prediction that I will bear an unperfect male child remains valid, although she's never understood how. Now, you have my attention, Luna said. And mine, Duke Isel added. How soon can we proceed? Cyanide said excitedly. Gathering a fleet of that size will take time. Longbow-class ships are far too large for jump space travel. They can't reliably travel faster than traditional warp. So, we'll have to assemble them at Starlinks and Stargates. The ship movements will be noticed well in advance. This operation is a logistics nightmare. Provided Cletheria maintains its hold over the Pilthgate, Oleander said, we could use the Dew Star Nebula as a final staging area and deployment point. Let's not risk provoking them, Gon said, I have no interest in hordes. The longer she's there, the more she'll suffer, Cyanide said mournfully. When the Alu Jackery crashed at the end of the Colmion War, she was there, trapped in a broken medical pod. She wasn't set free until the time of the Poison Fire Prophets 3. She was rebuilt in the cloning facility at Farpoint, but those memories remained. I will not stand for her being confined. I'd see Corrales turn to ash before I would allow her to spend another instant locked away from the world. You are the War Council, so tell me how much longer must I wait? We'll meet again in a month, Veril said with a steely glare. We do this right or not at all. Leave it to the High Executioner to express love through the words of vengeance, Luna teased. Don't stop her now, Oleander quipped. It made me regret she's unobtainable. Maybe for you, Larkspur taunted. I have more important matters to deal with, Duke Isel grumbled. I'm leaving. I'll see you all, except Oleander, next month, Gon said. Luckily for everyone else, Oleander taunted, I can't hear his voice. We all know my fleet's bigger than his. I wouldn't make the esteemed lady agonize longer because poor Gon is suffering from fleet envy. Samara and Oleander, come with me. The rest of you are dismissed. Cyanide said, just don't touch her skin, or I'll break your other arm. It was just dislocated, not broken, Oleander grumbled. Really, Cyan snickered, I'll have to throw you harder next time. Don't worry, Varel said happily. I'm sure at least one of us will remind you.